Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. These ball valves, manufactured by Watts. It's a 1/2 inch LFF BVS -3C-M1. Lead free. Prep and clean joints. Solder in open position. Apply flux to joint, then apply heat. Apply solder to joint. There's one problem with these. When you go to solder them, especially with the lead-free solder, they don't wet out. Inside this end, it either has a varnish or some kind of coating on it that makes it so that the solder will not wet out on it. I learned this the hard way. The first 3 that I installed, I followed the directions. You know, it says to apply the flux and then heat. Well, I applied the flux and I heated, and the solder went onto the pipe just fine, but it never penetrated the valve. It did not sweat into this casting. None of the 3 held. They all stayed loose. So after fighting it several times, I finally decided, okay, fine, I'll just take them out. So I did, and looked inside here, and it was just brass. There wasn't any solder inside of it at all. Well, by that time I had heated the valve to the point where the elastomer O-ring in there that seals the valve was burned. Trying to get this thing to heat. So those valves went back to Menards, and I got 3 new ones. Menards was nice enough to exchange them. That was very good of them. And before I took the bad valves back to Menards, I tried several different things to make solder stick on the inside. I settled on this method. Wire brushed the inside, and I applied paste flux, which is a wax-based flux that becomes acidic when you heat it. And I have been installing valves for a long, long time. I replumbed the house on Central Park Drive, my first house, with very similar valves. And I added plumbing to the house in Quincy with solder joints, and I added plumbing to the house in Union City with solder joints. Never have I had a situation where I put a new valve in and it didn't solder. So this is something to watch out for. I don't know if it's a trend in the new valves or if it's just a design situation. But in any case, make sure you absolutely clean the inside of that. And I mean mechanically clean them. You can't just wipe them with acetone, because that doesn't work. You've got to go in there with a wire brush and clean them out. That makes it wet out. The wire brush going in there, wiping it around inside, seems to work pretty good. If you just hold this in there and then pour solder into it, you know, tip it up and then try and put solder into it, it goes down into the ball. You don't want that. So that's one. Now here's the other one. pull those two pipes together so that they'll stay where I want them. Yeah, I got a good seal all the way around it. Good. When we were installing the new addition on the plant at Borg Warner in Coldwater, I worked with some plumbers who turned out to be pretty good friends. And they taught me a few things. One of the things was, if you have water in a line, then take a piece of bread dough, well, not bread dough, baked bread, and wad it up into a little ball and stuff it into the pipe. That will absorb any water that's trying to come down the line to where you're soldering. And when you turn the water on, it just melts and turns into mush and flushes out the faucet. That worked really well. So that's the trick I did today. I had one line that was constantly dripping water. I think it has a belly in the line way over across the house, and the lines aren't exactly level, so water would, every time I jiggled the pipe, a little water would run down, and I'd end up with a few drips where I was trying to solder. And like I said before, if you're soldering and you have water in the pipe will never get above 212 degrees until the water is gone. So it's the top part of the pipe would be at solder melting temperature, and the bottom part of the pipe wasn't. So I couldn't get it to pull. That, and having a problem with trying to get the inside of the valve wetted, made it so that I ended up having to take the valves out again and clean them up. And I will show you the process of how I tin the inside of the valves. So I tin the pipes, I tin the inside of the valves, I stuff some bread down the pipe and prevented the water from trickling down to where I was soldering. Put everything together and it looks like it's sealed. Proof's in the pudding. I'm going to let this stuff cool off. I don't want to hit it with cold water right away. Gonna let it cool off, and then I'm gonna station Lydia down here to watch for leaks, and I'm gonna turn the valves on. It's gonna be fun times. Hopefully no water. And if there is any water, it's gonna be a bad day. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching. This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the US or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.